Today's video, I'm doing something a little bit new. This is my desktop, my lovely iMac. And I don't normally show or record this way because what I want to do in this video is I want to show you a workflow that I use to organize my GAC matches. Because when I sit down to play GAC, I can do it one of two ways. I can open the game, load up the map, look at what my opponent has done, open their sectors, look at their defense, select the squad from, you know, what feels like a never-ending list of more and more characters, and try to keep track in my head of who I still have available for the different sectors, whether it's north or south. You know, maybe they've got Iden on defense, Mon Mothma, and Bugs, and I'm like, well, I can use Wampa up here for Iden, but then, and I use Jawas over here for Mon Mothma, and then for the Bugs, maybe I can use Vader, and then what inevitably happens is I go try, and I'm like, oh, snap, I put Vader on defense or something. So to stop that confusion, and to relax my noggin, because honestly, GAC takes a long time, I have a method that takes a little bit of time up front to develop it. And by a little bit, I mean about an hour every 3 or 4 months. But then it takes about 15 minutes to map out my entire GAC. And when I go to fight, when I go to start the battles, I don't spend any time deciding who to battle and where to battle because I've already mapped it out. And I don't have to like hurt my brain trying to remember what's where and who's on defense and who's available and which matches. I have a method I'm going to share with you now that where I can see every character in my roster all at once, ready to go, that is available for offense. And I preserve these records so that I can reference them in future GACs. Are you intrigued? I hope so. This tip has probably been the single most effective resource I have for my success in GAC. Maintain Kyber 2 for the better part of a couple of years now, and this is how. So let's get started. First thing you're gonna have to do, and I'm gonna move me out of the way a little bit here. Yep, like I said, I'm kind of doing a screen recording, is you're gonna have to open up, or rather take a lot of screenshots of your roster. And this takes I don't know, a few moments, right? So you go to your character inventory in the game, and it depends on the size of your screen, of course, but you take a screenshot and you scroll to the next set of characters in a screenshot, and you go on until you run out of viable characters. And the first time I did this, it took, I don't know, maybe 2.5 hours to set up. But then what I've done is I have established a rhythm. And now every time I go do this, and I do it about 3, maybe 4 times a year, and it takes me about an hour. So I go screenshot every one of them. Then after I screenshot them, I load them into Adobe Photoshop. And you may be saying, but Gerbil, I don't have Adobe Photoshop. That's okay. You don't need Adobe Photoshop. It's just the graphics editing tool I use. You could have Affinity or Pixelmator or any of a million different apps where you can open a picture. All you have to do is to be able to select an area. So in Photoshop, I've got my document in here, and I've created a bunch of rulers, ruler guides, and then I use the marquee tool and I select each character. Now here's the thing, I just copy it. So on my Mac, it's Command-C, on Windows, it's Command-V, and I do this one at a time. This is why it takes about an hour initially, because I do make a selection for each of these characters about one at a time. And as I select them though, I'm jumping over to an app that Apple calls Pages. It's their iteration of Word. And as a novice graphic artist, but as a designer and a teacher who teaches design, which uses a lot of graphics in our classes, charts, diagrams, text boxes, and things, this app is solidly better at handling lots of graphics. And so here we are. We are in Apple Pages. And if you're curious, Pages, like I said, it's just like Word. When you create a new document, there it is. I mean, it's made for typing, but also, like I said, it handles graphics a whole lot better, whether it's simple clip arts or it's what I'm copying and pasting out of Photoshop. Now, long story short, I go in and I select every character on my roster and I copy and paste it into a document like this. Now this particular document, I'm going to move me down here to the bottom. This particular document, I have 2 pages to it. The second page is housing all of my characters arranged for defense, which means that before the GAC starts, I can actually organize every character I have on one screen. I can select my teams, see what that leaves me, select offensive teams from what's left, and then I can move these defensive characters to another screen. So for example, right now I can see when this previous GAC that just ended, my front row on the top, I had Hera with Rex and Chopper. I had Fish, Princess Leia, and Fulcrum. I had Qui-Gon Jinn, Fifth Brother, and Savage. Pop quiz class, which one of those 5 squads got the most holds? Overwhelmingly, it was Hera. Which squad got the next most holds? Overwhelmingly, it was Akbar. Yes, Kyber 2. Qui-Gon never held. Fifth Brother never held. Savage got 1 hold. But I got like 6 holds or 7 holds with Rex and like 4 or 5 with Akbar. It's amazing. Anyway, bottom front row, I had Jabba the Hutt, Grand Inquisitor, I don't know how to say them, the Tuscans, CLS, and Malgus. And then in the back, I had Iden, Sana, Shakti, Mon Mothma, and Chirpa. Now, because you're copying and pasting these out of a screenshot from a screen, hopefully you have a device with a high resolution. Like I have an iPhone 14. Most Androids have very high screen resolutions, which means that as long as your computer can handle it, you can zoom in and still maintain very, very good clarity of image. So hopefully you're not losing any quality and you're not straining your eyes or anything. Also on this second screen, what I do, or second page of this document, is I post all of my likely unusable characters. I put my gear 12s in here. I even have a few like gear 11s because you just never know, right? You never know. Like I may find myself in a situation where I'm like, yeah, I think I might be able to pull that off, even with like a gear 11 or whatever armor or something, right? Or I just need a throwaway character to absorb the first AoE so that, or a shot or whatever. But then I got my other characters like my Mob Enforcer, Gamorrean Guard, Krennic, Lobot, who right now I have no use for. Although that's not so true for Lobot anymore. That rework was really, really nice. But then on the first page, what I do here is after I arrange my teams, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second, but after I arrange my teams, I then go into my GAC match and I screenshot my opponent's defense. So these here with the blue borders, these are what my opponent put. So in the north, last battle I had a matchup against Sith Eternal, Dooku with Nest, Malgus, Third Sister Reva. I did not win this match because of this one right here. Yep. And then Trench. And then in the south, we had Vader, Jabba, Rey, Finn, Fish. And of course, I don't know what's in the back until I beat them. Now, when I'm really, really in doubt, I jump over to SWGOH.gg and I look at the community statistical results, whatever, of counters, right? SWGOH.gg/counters. It's an amazing site. And so what I do sometimes when I'm really when I really want to be OCD, that's obsessive compulsive about this, I will actually put a little text box here with the official win rate on SWGOH. So for example, this match right here, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren Unmasked, Wat Tambor versus that particular lineup of Jabba the Hutt, has a community-wide 97.7% win rate. And I'm like, that's pretty solid. But this Starkiller versus that Rey with Cal and Ben, only a 69% win rate. Now that is scary. That right there is my most probable loss. Fortunately, I did beat it. But you'll notice I didn't put a text box up here because I could find no data about winning against Lord Vader with Jedi Master Luke and a Kanan Jarrus. So I didn't put it there. It's a variable that I can't account for. And while Sith Triumvirate had a 91% chance against Third Sister, I got smoked. So I was like, okay, I can handle that. So when I planned this, before the battle started, I look for places that are going to be my weakest link. I'm like, this is my weak link. What's my backup? So I arrange all my battles so that I have a backup in case those weak ones fail. And unfortunately, sometimes they do, right? Sometimes they do. So you just never know what's going to happen. So before I go into battle, after I've after I've sat down in Photoshop and I've copied all of these and I've brought in each of the screenshots from my phone. See, here's another one. You can just like select them all, line them up, do whatever you need, rasterize it if you need, copy and paste it. And if I'm losing you, don't worry, find an app that works for you. Photoshop is quite literally a professional photo editing application. You don't need this like complicated of an app. But I actually load up all 14 or so screenshots, take the time, right? Select it, copy it, go over to Pages, paste it, come back to Photoshop, move it over, copy it, paste it. And when I get into a rhythm, I can knock this out really fast. When I'm, talking and showing you, I'm a bit slower. So, okay, so how do I like get this started for the next matchup? Okay, well, each battle, each time I start a new round for GAC, if I need or want to do this, what I do, and let's hide all these, is I duplicate that file. I duplicate that file with all my characters on it. And I typically will date it so that I can keep track of it, right? So let's call this September the 7th. Let's assume there's a GAC and there's not. So I duplicate that file, and then in the new file, what I do, there we go. I come in here and I delete the old match information that I don't need, whatever characters they had, and then I update my defense however I want, and then it's a matter of just realigning, removing, and rebuilding any particular teams I want. So like I've got Sith Eternal, he's going to be a standalone character. I do not need a team with him, but I will typically put Wat Tambor. So I'm going to leave them close, but I'm going to separate them. All right, next I've got Slicker, so he's a GL, right? So I tend to put my GLs all together in one spot. Here's Kenobi, we'll put him right there, and then I've got Master Luke right here. And then I tend to arrange these with my more optimal characters. So we're gonna like take out CL, who is that? Ezra, there we are, right. Like my Dash team is gonna stay together, Fish is gonna stay together right here, Starkiller is gonna stay together. This who is this? Maul, Ordo, Bo-Katan, they're gonna stay together, so I don't need to worry about that. But you can see, oh, and then like Grievous is gonna stay together, Gas is gonna stay together, this Empire Squad's probably gonna stay together, Wampa's another solo champion, right? It's got that Omicron, we don't need a team for that. I actually run a variety of different Galactic Republics in here, so maybe I will put over here, I'll put Kenobi with Cat and Commander, or Kenobis, plural, right? And then maybe I'll put R2-D2 over here with Ahsoka and Padme, and then I will group that so that I can select and move them around easily. I want Old Ben right here, and I just take my time, and again, I rearrange these to build out the most effective set of teams I can for the upcoming match. And then once my opponent's roster becomes available, then I start putting them on the board, lined up next to theirs. So let's pull this one over here. Yeah, let's keep that Empire Squad together. We can pull First Order Trooper down, and we've got a Tusken all by himself with another Tusken. Up there we go. There's Chief. What's his name? Just Chieftain, it looks like. Right, so there's a squad. We're going to keep that together. Even at Gear 11, Boba Fett is pretty decent right there. I've got my Lord Vader counter right here. Works about 70% of the time. I've got my Sith Triumvirate right here. And then I can pull these over, just get them kind of out of the way for now. We'll pull Sortie down. And, we can squeeze that in right there. And then, like I said, Lobot. Woo! Lobot's a new addition. So, where was Sortie? Here it is. So, with this Sortie squad, I'm going to probably take out HK. I'm going to put Sortie in. And I'm going to regroup that and be like, new squad option right there. Isn't that exciting? And so there we go. So, here are all of my offensive teams that I have at my disposal for the next match. I'm going to save this, and I can even just leave this permanently saved like this so that it's ready to go whenever the next battle starts. So I may just have a template, and I will actually, I typically do, I will create a template, and then every time I have a new opponent, I just leave that, I open a copy of that template, and I like I said, I go screenshot my opponent's roster, their defense. So I'm like, okay, so here we go. They've got Sith Eternal, they've got Dooku, they got Malgus, they got Reva. And so, like I said before, I just start to match these up. I'm like, well, we're gonna put that right there. I'm gonna see their C right there. And then Malgus is Trixie, but we're gonna go with Gas. And what the advantage of this is, if you're still watching, is I can see my whole roster on one screen. I'm not swiping, I'm not scrolling, I'm not going back and forth. And as I open up the next sector, I don't have to I don't have to even change like screens. I don't have to go back to the map and be like, what was in the front, what was in the back, what was in the top, what's on the bottom. No, they're all right here. And of course, if I make these smaller, maybe it hurts my eyes more, but I could get more characters on the page. And I only resort to this if I'm really in a crunch, and I don't ever have to think about what's on defense, because if it's not here, it's not available. Yeah, I know, in the phone, I can scroll. If it's not there, it's not available, right? But when you're scrolling, it's harder to say, okay, is my full squad of Separatists on defense, right? Especially in 5v5. You're scrolling, you know, and Starkiller is not next to Mara Jane, is not next to Emperor Palpatine, is not next to Old Ben or Juhani, is not next to, but here they are. And so as I build out, and I'm like, okay, well, oops, Malgus is right there, right? And Dash is going to go right here, and I'm just going to throw these out. We'll put Fish up against Iden right there, and we're going to go Jawas against, I don't know, that one right there. And we'll Revan that one, and then we'll Grievous that one, and we'll Starkiller that one, and I still have my GLs available over here. Okay, and then we'll just Wampa that one. And I'm like, right here, there's my entire lineup. So now when I sit down to battle, I just go through them like clockwork. One, then the next, then the next, then the next. And if something fails, I typically just push it out of the way. I hide it, and then I'm like, okay, well, we need to build a new team against this. What's going to work against Iden? What do I still have left? Oh, I know. I can probably get away with this squad, right? And then when I run out of my pre-developed squads, then I start tapping into my reserves, and then if that fails, you know, and I really think there's any chance, usually not, I go to my back tier. Anyway, folks, I know that this is probably complicated, and maybe it's like just above and beyond nuts in your imagination, and it probably is, because I'm a little obsessive at times, but I don't do this every GAC. I do it just when I want to win. I know that sounds weird, but I did it for all of the 3v3 matches this last month, and I went 6-3, which is a good rate. That's a very good GAC win rate. And realistically, I sincerely believe I should have been 7-2. But I totally bungled a few things in my last match. Like, I totally bungled it. You know, like when you go in and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to throw C at that. I'm not paying attention, and the match starts, and you're like, oh, that was Emperor Palpatine, not Sith Eternal. That's always frustrating. Anyway, folks, I hope that maybe somewhere in this like wacky system I have that's overly complicated, I hope that something here was helpful, and maybe it will inspire you to spend a couple hours one day when you're eternally bored and have nothing better to do with your life than to organize pixels. But this system really helps if you are a visual focused person. Like, if you are, like, not all of us are blessed with like the memory capacity of someone like Zareth or you know, I don't know, some of these other YouTubers out there who they just know every counter, right? They're like, yeah, that's what's on SWGOH, that's what's on SWGOH. They know, they just know, because I guess they're good memories. I'm an organizer. I'm not a rememberer, if you can call it that. I'm an organizer. You give me data, I will make tables, I will make charts, I will make spreadsheets, I will make graphics that just blow you away in efficiency and operational management. Ask me to remember like 50 people's names that I met last year, it ain't happening. Anyway, folks, I hope this helps. If so, give me a like and subscribe down below. And if you've got questions, shoot them to me in Discord, shoot them to me in the comments, and I'll do what I can to get back to you. All right, thanks, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.